if I were to beat the shit out of you and try and put you in a ball, you'd probably say, Ryan, what the fuck is wrong with you? Luckily, in the Pokemon world, it's okay. Pokemon Sword and Shield are the 8th generation of Pokemon games and were released on the 15th of November 2019. As of December 31st, 2019, they've already sold 16.06 million units. Pokemon games typically sell like hotcakes, but god damn. I've played a combined total of over 150 hours of the two games, and I've played Pokemon since I was just a little boy. So with that, I hope you enjoy my review of Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Going into this generation of Pokemon, a lot of people were quite skeptical. A number of leaks had told us that there's badge requirements to catch Pokemon over a certain level. The EXP share is automatic and non-removable. And maybe the biggest controversy of all, the National Dex is no more. This had a lot of people, including myself, worried that Game Freak were taking a step in the wrong direction, especially for such a jump in hardware. But was this the case? Yes and no. These things all worried me, and after not liking Sun and Moon at all, I expected very little. I was surprised to find that Gen 8 of Pokemon turned out to actually be one of my favourites in years. First of all, let's talk about the new Pokemon. Straight up, I'm gonna say, I was impressed. While no generation of Pokemon can seem to scratch that of Gens 1 to 3, the Galar region is home to some of the coolest new Pokemon in years. The starters in particular are super cool. Even though they always manage to find a way to fuck up the final evolutions to the coolest starters, there's a number of unique but fitting Pokemon designs in these games. Some personal favourites were the first evolutions of the starters, Dragapult and Toxtricity, just to name a few. One thing I really appreciate that some people didn't like was that there's only 3 legendary Pokemon in the Galar region. This is a good thing, as it makes the few there are more memorable. Saying that, the box legendaries are very similar, and weren't really the most popular when compared to previous generations. This is the first gen I've ever completed the full Pokédex in, and I had loads of fun doing it. Once I got my shiny charm, I then went on to spend over 100 hours breeding for shiny Spookies, all with the right natures and abilities of course. As for the story, it's a Pokemon game. You're a trainer, go beat the 8 gym leaders, get the 8 gym badges, and try and beat the champion. Oh, and also stop the world from being destroyed by a legendary Pokemon. The characters in the game are great. You have 3 other main trainers you encounter throughout the game that act as your rivals, and 2 professors this time. I enjoyed each of them and the paths they took by the end of the story. The gym leaders and Champion Leon's design in particular are really good. The pacing of the story, on the other hand, is pure ass. The game as a whole is pretty short, and it took me only 23 hours in my first playthrough to complete the game, and that's with me exploring every town, catching loads of Pokemon, and breeding for the correct natures for my party. On my first playthrough, I found myself going and beating one gym leader to the next within the space of 20 minutes, and that's with me battling trainers along the way. It feels like they really crammed in and wrapped up all the bad guys' story in a short segment before the champion as well. Also, there's no Elite Four, and the post-game story is pretty shit and didn't need to be there. The Galar region does a great job of portraying the UK, but the towns in particular are one of the game's weakest points. This is nothing to do with their aesthetic, but more so how empty they are. Some areas such as Glimwood Tangle and Stow-on-Side were really nice and stood out overall, but I found that a lot of the towns have very little to find and explore, and I was in and out of them in some cases in about 10 to 15 minutes, whilst exploring everything. The wild area is this big open area where you can see different Pokemon roam free. This is where you'll spend most of your time searching for Pokemon. Different Pokemon will appear based on the changing weather conditions in different areas. This changes based on the day you're playing the game.
Curry on rice!
The wild area is such a great addition and is what the whole game should have been. Something they randomly took out of the Pokemon Let's Go games was that wild shiny Pokemon don't appear shiny in the overworld anymore, and you can only tell if they're shiny when you're inside the battle itself. This is a bit random and kinda sucks. There's a new battle mechanic yet again with this generation called Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, in which a selected Pokemon can become a big boy for 3 turns. This is replacing the idea of Z-moves from Pokemon Sun and Moon and Mega Evolutions from X and Y. You can go to dens in the wild area and do raids with computers or friends to take on a Dynamax or Gigantamax Pokemon for a chance to catch them with a hidden ability or better stats than you'd find with regular wild Pokemon encounters. This mechanic is actually, to my surprise, really fun and works well with the battling system that Pokemon has now. Some of the game's music is so good. The bagpipe soundtrack that plays in the wild area genuinely never gets old, even after countless hours of exploring and breeding, and the gym leader soundtrack makes the arena battles feel epic. Let's go back and address some of those pre-launch issues. The EXP share feels balanced and doesn't overtrain your Pokemon. This was a pleasant surprise, as with the past 2 games it made it far too easy when leveling up your entire party. The ability to turn it off isn't there, but it feels right and will probably be the standard for future installments. The lack of the national dex is unfortunate, but it didn't ruin the experience for me. More would have been nice, but again, this is not as bad as people like to go on about. Not being able to catch overleveled Pokemon is also something I never found to bother me. In other games they just wouldn't obey you anyway, so again this is just another complaint train that the internet jumped on. One problem I did have was the lack of Pokemon Bank at launch. This has since been added, but was a problem for Dex completion at the time. Another feature I disliked is the fixed camera angles in certain routes and towns. This feels so outdated, especially for a AAA title, and needs to be changed in future installments for a full controllable camera like in the wild area. Another downfall of the game is it's stripped back online. A lot of functionality is missing, such as a proper GTS, and made trading a pain in the arse. On the other hand, some long overdue improvements were implemented in these games, such as the ability to use your PC on the go. Yes! This made swapping my party, catching and breeding so much easier, and it'll surely be the standard from now on. Another great addition is the inclusion of nature mints, which can be earned post-game to change the nature of a Pokemon. This is great for people playing comp online or with friends. The Pokemon animations and models are surprisingly crisp, so much so that I found myself liking the look of certain Pokemon I never thought much of in previous games. Overall, despite all the negativity, these games are very good, and without the internet's pre-launch shitstorm, I'd say the reviews would be nearly as good as previous titles. What makes the game lose major points isn't just the lack of national dex, but the awfully paced story towards the end of the game, bad online, and a dreadful non-controllable camera in large sections of the game. Saying that, the region has this weird charm to it that has me playing it over and over again. I can see these games selling upwards of 30 million units by the end of the Switch's life cycle. Despite the lack of effort put into some aspects of the game, as a whole, it's still really fun, and has so much charm and great new Pokemon themselves that I'd put Gen 8 in my top 5 Pokemon games, and look forward to future installments in the series. As much as I personally love them, the numerous drawbacks with the games prevent me from scoring it where I'd want to, and with that, I have to give Pokemon Sword and Shield a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments who your 3 favourite Pokemon were from Gen 8. If you enjoyed, please support the channel by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.